Hi everyone, it's Ali. Today I'm going to show you how I made this galaxy card with the really cute little dragon from the My Favourite Things Magical Dragon stamp set. I'm just starting with a square card here, and I've got a square piece of paper to go on that as well. And I'm just deciding on a black frame that I'm going to do. And in the end I decided to go a size bigger than that, so I grabbed the two dies bigger than that to make that black frame. And I'm just going to get a piece of watercolour paper here, and I'm going to cut a circle out of this to make into a moon to sit in the corner of that card there. So I've just grabbed one of my standard circle dies and run that through my big shot. And now I'm going to just watercolour up that moon with some hickory smoke and some antique linen. And I'm just smooching that onto one of my acrylic blocks, spraying a bit of water and just grabbing my paintbrush. And I'm just sort of dabbing it onto the paper really. I'm not using any particular design or method here. I'm just dabbing it on sort of randomly and then joining it up until it kind of looks okay. It's a bit random. And then just clearing the block off to put a bit of antique linen on. Same thing, just spraying a bit of water there. I didn't even clean my brush off, and then just going with the antique linen into the gaps where there's no grey, but then sometimes I went over the top of the grey as well a little bit too, so just sort of blended it together a little bit better. And that's pretty much it really. It's quite easy and very sort of haphazard. And then just drying it off with my heat gun a little bit as well. And I'm going to, in the end, tuck that behind the frame so that it's just in the corner there. Now I'm going to do the galaxy background, and I'm going to use my Distress Oxide inks for the sort of colour in the centre of the galaxy. And I've got Broken China, Wilted Violet and Cracked Pistachio. And I chose these colours because they're pretty much the only colours I've got in the Distress Oxides. So, yeah, that's what I used. But I find with Galaxy that you can put any colour in there really, and it just turns out looking great. So that's why I particularly like doing these backgrounds. And they're just going in with the Broken China, just in sort of little patches. And then I'll go back in again afterwards with the colours to blend them together a little bit more. But you really don't have to be too particular about the blending, because you're going to cover a lot of it anyway with the darker colour and the water splashes and things like that. So that's another good thing about doing the galaxy backgrounds. If you tend to be someone who likes to be too particular and too exact, it's good because you have to be a little bit freer and, you know, just make things a little kind of messier. Then I'm just going in there with the black soot around the edges and just bringing it in quite close to the centre, and then kind of even now and again going over the colour as well, and just continue to layer that black soot colour on until it's quite dark around the edges and almost as though it's covering most of your colour. And then I'm just deciding on the orientation of where I would like that galaxy to be on the card, just making sure it looks okay. But I just decided there wasn't really enough black, or I needed to cover that colour a little bit more, so I just went over and back in with the black soot again, just to give a little bit more coverage. And now I'm just going to grab my water sprayer and another paintbrush and just dip the paintbrush in my water sprayer and just flick it over the background, and every now and again I turn it around, so otherwise I tend to find all my flicks look like they're all in the same direction. And I did also try a little bit of, I grabbed some gesso as well because I wanted some white speckles, so I've just got a little bit of gesso there and putting that again on my acrylic block, a little bit of water, mixing it up, and then again just flicking that on. I trialled it on my mat first to make sure it was going to come out okay, and then flicked that onto my background. Again, turning it around just to make sure things look a little bit random, and just until I was happy with it. There's no right or wrong, just keep going until you think it looks good to your eye. And I went in with some bigger little spots with my paintbrush as well. And then I also wanted to add some silver, and I racked my brain to just see what I could put on there, and I found an old colour box silver re-inker that I've had probably for near on 15 or 16 years when I first started stamping. I've never had to re-ink my silver, but I've just used the re-inker then. So that's great. And then just dried it off a little bit. It's still a little bit wet, and I should have waited a little longer because I did end up smudging a bit, but I will tell you how I fixed that later on. And then I just stamped out the little dragon from that Magical Dragons My Favourite Things set with just a Memento Tuxedo black ink so I could colour it in with my Copics. And I just went in there with a YG25. I wasn't too specific about my selection of colours for the dragon because I'm going to go over him with a dark grey anyway to give that shadow look, as though this sunlight or the moonlight is, you know, just sort of on the tip of his nose and his head. I've left a little bit there, and then I'll go in with the dark grey, or I think I started with a C5 and coloured him in, and then I went in with a C7 to make him even darker again. But I've just left, I don't know if you can see it, but I've just left the tip of his head and the tip of his nose, a bit like he's got some moonlight on his nose. And then I just cut him out, fussy cut him out because I didn't want a white edge around him. And then I grabbed, again, something else that I've had for years and years, a pair of deckled scissors, and I'm sure everyone has got one of those in their stash that they probably bought years ago like me. And I just went around the edge of that larger square. And again, I'm just getting my orientation of where I want everything to go. And I didn't like the white border there around the edge of the card, so I decided I was going to cover the front of my white card with a piece of black so that, you know, the whole front was black. And I felt that looked a bit better. I could have used a whole piece of black card, but I just like to keep my coloured card for layering, and I find that using a white base is a little cheaper. So I often, use a white base and then just cover the front with the colour if I want it coloured. Then I've used the Happy Birthday and Dream Big words or sentiments from another My Favourite Things set, the Adorable Elephant set. And I've just stamped that in Versamark, Hero Arts pigment ink, and embossed it in white embossing powder, and then just set it with my heat gun. And you can see I've smudged a little bit of the silver down there, but I actually rubbed that off with my Mono sand eraser, which I got from Simon Says Stamp, and it's actually quite handy. It fixes a lot of mistakes, and I do make a few mistakes. And then I'm just going to attach that deckled square to my card with some 3D foam, just to pop it up a little bit. Just making sure it's all straight and that I've got the right opening for my card. And then I actually just then realised that I'd forgotten to put my moon behind that piece. But before I actually put that on, I'm going to run around the edges with black, just because it's on, the galaxy was on a white base, so I could see the white edge on the card there. So I just went around that with a Copic marker, and then realised I'd forgotten to put my moon in, so I sort of had to trim a little bit of the moon and then tuck it in using my trimming knife, and then I stuck that down, so it was all fine. And then I just stuck my little dinosaur on there as well with double-sided tape. So then all that's left is to pop that up again on the card, again with some 3D foam. And making sure, again, that the card is the right orientation. A number of times I've stuck something on the front of a card and it's opened the wrong way. I can't tell you. And that is the card. So I hope you enjoyed watching my video and that you'll give Galaxy backgrounds a go. They look great and they look technical, but they're really quite easy. So please give it a go. Let me know how you go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.